Is perfection in sex addiction possible? That's what we're going to talk about today, because from his perspective and her perspective, we need to get a handle on this. It might be helpful in recovery. Now, if you have yet to subscribe to our channel, there's that button, hit it. We have hundreds of videos that can help you in recovery. And if you have a question, whether you're the him or the her, the box is there for you. We get back to you as soon as possible. Well, is perfection in sex addiction possible? First, let me tell you why this is a question. It really generally comes from a heart that's really been hurt. If you're a partner of a sex addict, you've been traumatized. We have lots of videos on that. We have the Partner Betrayal Trauma book, Partner Recovery book. You've been traumatized. I legitimately validate your pain. And you don't want any pain anymore. And honestly, you don't deserve any pain anymore. Here you are, putting your heart out there, putting your sexuality back out there, raising the kids, trying to encourage your husband, if he's the addict, or your wife, if she's the addict, in their recovery. And you don't want to be hit again. Nobody does. Okay? Now, that's the heart of the spouse. Now, let's go to the heart of the addict. He doesn't want to relapse, but he's an addict. And so he has been doing this for decades. Now, you can do recovery without relapses. Okay? I haven't had a relapse in, it'll be 40 years, very shortly. 40 years, okay? Now, when I started recovery, there were no tools, there were no groups, there was no 100 exercises, none of the materials that we produced existed. Sex addiction was not even a word. And I remember I started my accountability with a guy in seminary, and then I started accountability with my wife, and I was honest. And I had like maybe 2 or 3 relapses the first month or 2, and that was it. It was over. Now, recovery is a process. It is not perfection, but it is a process that it should be aiming towards the ultimate goal of never relapsing again. And that should be done as soon as possible. Now, what a person believes can affect their behavior significantly. If you believe you're going to relapse again and again and again, you're going to relapse again and again, and you're going to probably hurt your spouse way more than you need to. If you believe you don't have to, and you actually use the tools with all your heart, your chances of relapsing are really low. So, perfection, okay, is going to be how perfectly I use my tools. Because how perfectly I use the tools determines how perfectly I'm going to recover. Okay, so let's go through that real quick. If the addict is using their tools, they're doing the 5 C's, praying in the morning, reading literature related to sexual addiction recovery, making phone calls, going to groups. If they're not doing groups, they're going to relapse. That's just the way it is. That's intentional relapse, and they're not even trying for perfection. They're not even trying for recovery. Without a group, not going to make it. I've seen billionaires, mega millionaires, famous people, intelligent people, rocket scientists, heart surgeons, super successful men and women fail if they try to do it by themselves. Being smart doesn't get you sober. Being in a group gets you sober, and then praying again at the end of the day. Now, that's your 5 C's. If you see them working their workbooks, if you see them doing that. Now, they also, in that process, they know to be making a phone call every day, and they know to make a phone call if they even start down the road of thinking about it. Like, I wonder if that person's at the store. I wonder if that magazine is still there. I wonder if I go on this website. If they start thinking about it, that's when they're supposed to make a phone call. So they can perfectly make a phone call before they get into trouble. They can perfectly ask for help before they need it. Okay, now if you haven't watched the video, we have a great video about after relapse. Okay, if you're gonna relapse, watch this preemptively. Okay, watch it now so that you can have a plan for after relapse. You don't need to relapse, but if you do, you should understand the pain you've caused her, what you need to do to own that pain with her. Okay, so after relapse, you want to get that video and watch that so that you can restore the relationship if you decide to choose to relapse. All behavior in addiction is a choice. Addiction only describes the influence. It doesn't take away the responsibility. So if you relapse and you blame your addiction, your spouse is going to think you're a nut because you are not taking responsibility. And I cover that in the after relapse video. But what you can expect if you're the spouse is that they are doing their work, they are making phone calls, and they are committed to honesty. Now, here is one way that we have done an incredible job increasing the rate of sobriety in the whole addiction recovery field. Before myself, no one was ever using a polygraph in recovery. And we've been using it for almost over 3 decades now. And that is one way to help success rates move towards that perfect place. If a man or woman who's the addict refuses to take a polygraph on an ongoing basis, they're going to relapse way more often than those that do. Now, I'm talking from 40 years of experience and over 5,000 couples, all right? So I'm not just someone who's blowing smoke at you. And I can tell you so many addicts, men and women, have told me, Dr. Weiss, if it wasn't for the polygraph, I would not have been able to be clean. Now, the reason the polygraph's important is because it removes the secret world. Okay, if I believe there's a secret world as an addict, I might take that door and go down the road. And also, there's a disadvantage of being an addict. I'm spiritually, emotionally, and morally immature. Well, moral immaturity is the decision process of right and wrong. And so for them, it's relative until they get sober for about a year. Okay, and so they need that polygraph to help them get through that first year, and even thereafter, you can take it thereafter. We strongly recommend quarterly for the first year and then 6 months the second year. And this allows the addict to become mature, okay, and it also gives a way for whatever is the truth, perfect or not, it is known beforehand. And also another thing that can help is that the couple has a policy about relapses, and this is in the video, about how they're going to communicate it. And this is up to the spouse, what they want to know. Now, I'm talking about behaviors. I'm not talking about thoughts. Behaviors. If they masturbated, if they viewed pornography, if they flirted with somebody, right? Those are actual behaviors. And if they cross a behavioral line, what is the agreement that the addict and the spouse has together to communicate that or not communicate that? Do we just communicate these behaviors to our accountability partner? Do these behaviors become something we discuss inside the marriage? And the spouse decides that, not the addict. Because the addict will be like, well, I don't need to talk about that. I talk about that with my sponsor. That person is more likely to keep relapsing. If there is any form of relapse and they tell their spouse and the spouse wants to know, that's fine. Another factor that leads towards a more perfect recovery is having consequences. So if the addict does do a relapse, they know they're going to have a consequence and they set it up. The addict sets it up, not the spouse. The addict says, okay, if I relapse with this behavior, this is my consequence, first time, second time, third time, and they go down the list of their bottom line behaviors. And the spouse agrees with the consequences, and then we're set to go. These are things that can contribute to recovery feeling more perfect, feeling like we're making progress, and feeling like there's some hope. If someone's just telling you they're gonna stop, just believe me, honey, that's not gonna happen. Not gonna happen. They need recovery. And as a partner, if you've been betrayed, you need some help as well because the trauma's real. I'd encourage both of you, if you can, get in some phone counseling, call my office at Heart to Heart Counseling Center, 719-278-3708. Get in a phone group if you don't have a group locally that you can attend, because these are healthy and they're very much structured so that you get success in your recovery. They use the materials so that you get what you need to do in recovery. If you can do an intensive in Colorado Springs, that is the best way to expedite your recovery. And we also have a neuromodulation for the partners or the addicts if they want. And this is something you can do to help your brain to get back to health. Okay, not just the counseling, not just the relationship, but actually your brain. All of these can help you have a smoother recovery.